Hey everybody, I'm Bede, a.k.a. the Terrible Australian at supermarcy.com, and welcome to the very first edition of my 2015 MIFF video reviews. Yep, that's right guys, the Melbourne International Film Festival is upon us once again, and I will be covering it again this year, for supermarcy.com. This will be my fourth year in a row covering MIFF, and I have a lot of stuff lined up over the next few weeks. I'll be checking out 34 films at the festival this year, which is kind of a big step up compared to last year, because I checked out, I think, 30 films last year, so yeah, there's a little bit more this year, and I swear, my list every year for MIFF just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but despite back, this is going to be a pretty big year for me at MIFF. I got a lot of great films lined up for the festival. A couple of them I've already seen so far, but we shall see how. But like I said, I got a lot of stuff to talk about, so I'll be doing video reviews for all the films that I'll be seeing at the festival over the next 2 weeks. So keep a lookout for all of them. But for this very first video, I am going to be reviewing the first 2 films that I saw at the festival this year, which were the black and white coming of age German drama The Spiderwebhouse, and as well as Yorgos Lanthimos. I probably pronounced his name wrong, so forgive me. The director of DOGTOOH's latest film, The Lobster. So let's get right into it. Now, to help me out, since I kind of suck at explaining the plots to films, I've got and as I've done in previous years past, I've got my trusty MIFF guide here that I'm going to read all the synopsis for all the films out. So that way I don't screw it up and butcher the English language in the process. So let's get right into it. Now, first up is The Spiderwebhouse. When 12-year-old Jonas's mother leaves to fight her... When 12-year-old Jonas's mother leaves to fight her demons, he steps up as the head of the household, becoming the unofficial guardian of his younger siblings. With food and money running out, the children retreat into a world of their own where, cloaked eerily in black and white, their home turns into one of bugs and mysticism. They make saucepan gardens, they take on insects as pets, and spiderwebs enroach. Only the friendship of an odd young homeless man gives Jonas the hope to survive an adult's world. And sort of reading that premise and all that, it does sound like an incredibly heavy film, and in a lot of ways it is, and it's definitely, I had to laugh because somebody on Twitter mentioned the other day after seeing this film, this is definitely another entry in the parents leaving their kids alone and seeing how they survive subgenre of film, which did give me a laugh. And the film is like that in a lot of ways, but I have to say though, I thought that it was a pretty well-crafted film, and I actually, honestly, had never even heard of this film until I actually read about it in the MIFF guide, and that's one of the great things about when I sort of read through the MIFF guide, the program guide for the first time, because you kind of come across films that you've never even heard of before, and you'll read about them, and you'll be like, oh, that sounds really interesting. And The Spiderwebhouse definitely was one of the ones that stood out to me the most, and as well as it had a title that just catch my interest right away. And I have to say though, like I said before, I thought this was a pretty well-crafted film, and I really liked it a lot. It is a very heavy film, but at the same time, it's not like an overtly depressing film or anything like that. I mean, it is a very sort of gritty film, and a sort of somewhat of a dark film as well. But there's a sort of a realistic vibe to it that I found that made this story very believable. And what's funnily enough is that the film is actually based on real events, so that kind of added to sort of the reality of the story. But one of the things that I really liked about this film was the performances of the three young actors in the film. I can't remember the actors who started in the film. Not off by hand anyway, but I thought all three who played the characters of Jonas and his younger brother and younger sister, these three child actors were terrific. They were really, really good, and I thought they just gave really great performances. And they sort of had, and they didn't play the roles as like a lot of sort of child actors do these days. They kind of approach their roles. They're kind of playing them as adults rather than kids, but these kids portray their roles as kids and like actual kids, and like in a way that we as an audience would find believable. And they also did a really good job for us as an audience to sort of sympathize with them and what they're going through, especially after their mother, who, as we're kind of aware of in the film, does have sort of a mental disability that we kind of, and when she leaves and they have to sort of cope on their own, we sort of get it really into their story, and also how they deal with the harsh realities of life. And as it says in the synopsis that I was reading just there, that they kind of create this own world. It's not like one of those films where it sort of blurs the line between fantasy or reality, and it's not one of those type of films. But in some regard it kind of is, but it's done in a way that's very realistic. Like there is a bit of a quirkiness to it, but it's played incredibly believable. So that it makes it sort of more compelling as a film. And I thought that it's very well directed. The black and white cinematography just looked gorgeous, and the production design was really good as well. And I just thought it was a pretty engaging film, and particularly has probably one of the best child performances I've seen in a while, with our three main characters. And the director of the film, who is Myra Ebel Ibisfeld. I probably pronounced her name wrong, so forgive me. I thought she did a really good job with her direction, and it's just a well-directed film, and it also just looks beautiful and just really engaging. So overall, I thought The Spiderweb House is a really good film, and a very pleasant surprise, and definitely one of the films that which I had no expectations for and never heard about, and just happened to pay off really well once I checked it out. So if I had to rate this film, I'd give it 4 out of 5. And at the moment, it's only doing the film festival circuit, so if you happen to see it, I'd definitely say it's worth a watch. Now, go on to the next film, which I'm excited about, which is The Lobster. Winner of this year's Cannes Jury Prize, the new film and English language debut from the wonderfully from the mind of director Yorgos Lanthimos. Again, if I pronounce his name wrong, please forgive me. Is a deadpan, absurdist satire on modern romance that could only have come from the Greek auteur. In the near future, single citizens are sent to a hotel where they have 45 days to pair off with a mate, or be turned into an animal of their choosing and hunted in the woods. I mean, here's the thing about Yorgos Lanthimos. I mean, if you've seen his previous 2 films, Dogtooth and Alps, coincidentally, Alps was actually the very last film I saw at the 2012 Melbourne International Film Festival. That was the very last film I saw at the festival that year. And if you want to check out what my thoughts were on that film, you can find the video review here on my page. But I must admit, though, I absolutely loved Dogtooth. I thought that was a terrific film. But Alps I found kind of a disappointment. But that being said, when I heard about this film, I was really excited to see it, because even though, I was disappointed with Alps, I still thought that Lanthimos had, again, if I pronounce his name wrong, I apologise, is a very talented director and a very unique, one-of-a-kind filmmaker, and I'd be interested to check out anything he creates. So when I read about the synopsis of this film, I just knew that this was one I had to check out right away. And since this is also his English language debut, and he assembled a great cast. You got Colin Farrell, Rachel Weisz, John C. Reilly, Leah Seydoux, Ben Whishaw, Olivia Colman, Ashley Jensen, and many others. And I have to say and I thought, usually when sort of foreign directors take on an English language debut, usually the film doesn't, they sort of have to suit their style to, a Western audience, and, there's sort of the things that make them who they are as a filmmaker are kind of muted, both from visual style and their sort of, and also how they approach stories and whatnot. But no, this is definitely his film through and through, and you can definitely tell that this was made by the same guy who made Dogtooth. I have to say, I absolutely love this film. I just thought it was fantastic, and it's definitely one of the most original films I have seen so far this year, and it's one that I highly recommend everyone to check out. It's kind of a mixture of a lot of things. It's got that sort of dark, cynical edge that Dogtooth had, and it's got a bit of satire in there, and it sort of like has a bit of a sort of dystopian vibe to it. But at the same time, it does have that sort of coldness as Dogtooth had, like, although as well. But what makes this film different from Dogtooth is that it's at the heart of it. It's a romance, and it actually had, and maybe it's not like a sentimental kind of gooey type of romance. It's kind of like this sort of offbeat, kind of quirky kind of romance, and it actually works. And also, one of the things I was really surprised about with this film is that it's absolutely hilarious. I was actually laughing out a lot during the course of this film. And, like, I know some people might say it's a bit uneven because while you have all these really funny, quirky kind of scenes, then you got these sort of really dark elements to it as well. And I can get some people might have a problem with that. And in the past with some films, I've too had that problem. But I feel like that sort of, the director kind of found a great balance of having this sort of really funny, sort of comedic side of this film with this sort of darker side as well, and he keeps the balance perfectly, and it doesn't feel like, off-putting or jarring at all. It actually works for the type of story that it is, and there's just a lot of really interesting and compelling things about this film, and a uniqueness that makes it feel fresh and original as a film. It's just so fantastic, and there are some fantastic scenes in this film that can only have come from the mind of this director, and I just thought it's brilliant. Like, it's an absolutely brilliant film on so many levels. As you can tell, I absolutely love this film a lot, and also the performances are all great, and also, like, Colin Farrell, I like Colin Farrell, but he can sort of be on, like, for every good film that he's in, he gives a good performance. He can be in something that is bad and doesn't give a good performance, but this is a good showcase of his talents, and in some ways he's almost kind of unrecognizable because he's a bit more sort of like a bit sort of schlubby and sort of as his character's a bit schlubby and kind of very downbeaten, and it's completely the polar opposite of what Colin Farrell is in real life, and he does a really good job at it. But everyone in the cast is great, and everyone sort of has a great moment to shine with their performances, and also the sort of romance between him and Rachel Weisz is, again, quirky, but is actually quite lovely, and also has a bit of a dark edge to it as well. I just thought it was just extremely well done. It's a brilliantly written script, fantastically directed. It's just a one-of-a-kind film, and usually we get something like this like once a year. Something that is totally unique, totally original, and it's unlike any other film you're going to see at the cinema this year. And to me, it's this film. Like, until something else comes along, this is one I just think that... And I would say it's a bit more accessible than Dogtooth as well. Like, yeah, it still has... That's not to say, like, it's a mainstream film from Yorgos in any way, but no, this is definitely, like... this is definitely all him. Like, this is definitely a great companion piece to Dogtooth in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it's also accessible. Like, it's something that, like, I think, if you've never seen Dogtooth or Alps, you would definitely check this film out and dig it as well. And I think, and my audience did really like it a lot that I saw it with, and yeah, there's a lot more I can say about this film, and there's a lot of parts of the plot, other than sort of what I sort of mentioned here in the synopsis. There's actually a lot more to the story than that plot, but again, that goes into spoiler territory, so I won't be able to cover that, but you'll have to check out the film for yourself when it comes out. And I highly recommend that you do. It's just a fantastic film. It's definitely one of the best films I've seen so far this year, and if I had to rate this film, I'm giving it 5 stars. It's just fantastic. I loved it a lot. So much. Yep, that's the... I apologize if this video review went a bit longer than expected, but, I try to cover as much as I can, especially when I got 2 films to cover in just one of these episodes. So forgive me for running a little bit long. But I hope you all enjoyed this first edition of my MIFF video reviews. Keep a lookout very soon for my next couple editions, and particularly my second edition, in which I will be covering the sort of 80s-esque throwback action film Turbo Kid, and the gambling comedy drama Mississippi Grind. So that'll be the next one that I'll cover in the second edition. So keep out for that one, and I'll see you guys all later. See you, everyone. Bye.